Thanks for staying with us. So many already know about the situation in Sudan, still very well, that broke out on Saturday, and the struggle for power between the military and civilian protesters demanding civil rule. According to reports, about 5,000 Nigerian students might be stranded in the country. However, the chairman, CEO, Nigerians in diaspora, Honorable Abike Dabiri-Arewa, said that the tense situation makes it gravely risky and impossible for any flight to evacuate the stranded Nigerians in Sudan right now. We read in the reports earlier that even some planes were burnt down at the airports, and many countries have tried to rescue theirs, but they had issues and they were resisted by some of the civilians. So it's been difficult to get our own students out. We also read in the papers that there are actually 5,500 students who are stranded in Sudan. But however, on the show right now, we'll be speaking with our guest from NEMA. He's the Dr. Onimode Bandele, Director, Special Duties, National Emergency Management Agency. He's NEMA's committee chairman for the evacuation of the stranded Nigerians in Sudan. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yes, we've been hearing from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the works are ongoing to get our students out of Sudan, and they had told us yesterday that in a day or two we should be having this student back. Could you give us an idea what the rescue mission plan is? How do you plan to begin the evacuation of our students?
Thank you for your preview, like you said. At the onset of the crisis, it's been difficult for any country to go in to move their nationals. But the good thing is, as at this morning, with the communication I had with my DG, Mustafa Habib Ahmed, who's already in Egypt, and His Excellency Ambassador Olaniyan, who is in Khartoum, plans are already underway to get these students, numbering about 3,500, to safe haven in Egypt.
Okay, sir. I wanted to ask, according to the reports, we were told that this crisis started last year, December. And some countries have, so just maybe help me explain better. Some countries have, started evacuating their citizens from Sudan. Do you think the negotiations you're having now started a bit late? Or what do you think was responsible for Nigerians trying to evacuate their own people now?
What we're responding to now is what happened in the last 3 weeks,
okay,
when the two warring factions escalated. As at that time, nobody could get into that country to move anybody out. You are aware there's a window for ceasefire, which we're exploring, and that has given opportunity for us now to want to move these people out. In situations like this, it's always safer to be sure the avenue is available for you to move your citizens and to just rush in and start having casualties. So that's why the Nigerian government were meticulous enough to follow the situation and ensure that it's safe for us to evacuate our citizens.
Okay, sir. I want to find out if you and your team are in conversation with this 5,500 Nigerians to be assuring them that they are safe. What was the last information you got from them in your last conversation?
Let me quickly correct that there's no direct communication between those of us at home here with them, but it's the responsibility of our embassy, especially the ambassador, to communicate government decision to these people. And as I speak to you, from what we discussed with the ambassador, he's in touch with not just the student, but the Nigerian population in Sudan concerning this plan to have a safe return by road through Egypt.
So when you say by road, how do you mean? So where are the starting point from? How many buses are we getting? Are we having supplies for them to eat while they get? And how many hours also from where they are in Sudan all the way to Egypt? What's the entire modus operandi towards them getting to Egypt?
Okay, our starting point is going to be Khartoum. The arrangement is to have luxurious buses to convey these students and other nationals in a safe and dignified manner, in the sense that we're not just going to load them like goods, but they will be having buses that are comfortable to get them across. And for services while the journey is on, those are part of the plans, and I'm sure once the movement starts, all those conveniences will be provided to ensure that everybody is happy before they get to Egypt.
Let me be sure I'm clear. So are you sending buses from Egypt to pick up, or you are getting buses from Sudan to bring them in?
The arrangement from the ambassador's end is to get buses from Sudan to bring them in.
Oh, okay. So I would like you to confirm to us the number of students who Nigerian government is actually planning to evacuate, because the National Association of Nigerian Students in Sudan president mentioned that they have about 10,000 students currently schooling in Sudan. However, some of them have been on holiday. So can you give us the exact number that Nigerian government is going to be evacuating?
The figure we are working with is the figure supplied to us by the Nigerian embassy in Khartoum, and it states that the preparation is for 3,500 nationals to be evacuated from Sudan.
So when they get, so go ahead.
So I wanted to find out, because some people probably can get access to this, if there is a Nigerian in Sudan who probably hasn't been captured in this, what's the process for getting the details of Nigerians? How can they reach out to the embassy to let the embassy know that they are here and they would love to be evacuated out?
Like I said, the first point of contact with the Nigerian government is our embassy. And once this evacuation commences, you can be very sure that other nationals, once they get the information, they will get across to the embassy so that they can be considered too in the evacuation process.
We have our guest from NEMA here. Sir, when Nigerians finally get to Egypt, what's the plan to bring them home? Do you have plans for airlines, working with airlines, or are they going to have to fend for themselves?
No, the government is going to take charge of their airlift from Egypt to Nigeria, while a team will be on ground to receive them and ensure that they move to their various homes safely.
Okay, sir. I hear that the government has shut down internet all over Sudan. I want to understand how the Nigerian embassy would, get information across to Nigerians for this evacuation.
That I need to reconfirm from the embassy, because some of these are social media talks, and in the last 1 hour, I still spoke with the ambassador via WhatsApp, which means internet is still working in Sudan.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. All right, so we just want to, so when is evacuation starting? Is it today or tomorrow? Because I know that the Minister of Foreign Affairs was saying in a day or two. So when exactly is the date starting?
With the information at my disposal, the date is 25th of April 2023.
Okay, so Nigerians who live in Sudan right now should know that evacuation starts tomorrow, and they should reach out to the Nigerian embassy in Sudan to ensure that they are enlisted for evacuation starting tomorrow. And the information is that they arrive in Egypt, yes. And when they arrive in Egypt, they'll be lifted to Nigeria subsequently. Okay, thank you very much, sir, for sharing this with us this morning. It was important for us to hear from you because Nigerians have been concerned about the the fact that many people seem to be stranded in Sudan without any federal government support, but it's good to know that federal government is actually working towards the evacuation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. Let me come back to you guys. This happens a lot of times, you know, when matters like this escalate and then Nigerians are clamoring. I mean, do you always think that we are almost slow to respond, or do you feel that we're always trying to give situations the benefit of the doubt? You know, he said this hold has happened in the last 3 weeks, and nobody thought the situation would escalate to this point. We've heard that some countries evacuated earlier, others were not willing to take chances. We had crisis in Nigeria too. I remember when various embassies were telling their people they were actually just warning their people, but they didn't really do any major evacuation. They were just warning their people not to go to certain areas. So at what point do you think that government should begin evacuation, or just continue to warn their citizens across the country when there are issues, conflict issues within countries?
Okay, so of course, we would expect that the government should, there's always going to be, once there's a crisis in the country, Nigeria is permanently, we're feeling like everything is good. But when you read the advisory, the warnings that the UK, US have against Nigeria, only someone who has a major, like there's huge opportunity would come into Nigeria, because there are risks attached to being here right now, and that's the truth. Same with Sudan. So I feel that the Nigerian government they're not being reactive, because the crisis actually escalated just like very recently. Yeah. The crisis, like everywhere, we know crisis can happen in pockets of places, and it could have been controlled, similar to what happened in Nigeria, where crisis happened and it was controlled. But because we see France being able to swoop in, get their citizens out, we can't compare ourselves with France. We can't compare ourselves with first world countries. Nigeria is in the category of third world countries. We are in the category of one of the poorest countries in the world. So let's not even start comparing ourselves with developed countries. Jesus' name. That's Nigeria's statistics. It's not personalized. It's not for me and you. But that's the statistics of Nigeria. So we cannot be comparing ourselves with people that have military might that they were warding off.
But BC took it earlier that some countries have about 50 citizens. You know, they didn't jackpot. They did not jackpot to Sudan. They only have people put there, or maybe business on government issues. So
we cannot compare ourselves with the developed countries. We cannot compare our military might to developed countries. We don't have enough. We don't have a national carrier that would go and say, oh, that we're taking national carriers to go and carry people from there. So there are many things where Nigeria as a country cannot be competitive. And so let's not compare ourselves. Based on where we are as a country, our response is good.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion.
You tried in your conclusion. And I want to agree with you, but I don't want to agree with you. For the benefit of this show, I will not agree with you.
Thank you.
So I think we're a bit slow in response. So the evacuation we want to do now, if we had done it earlier, is it not the same thing? We still are going to evacuate the people now. But now we're doing it in a very toughened situation where it's now becoming even more difficult to do compared to if we had done it earlier. We're not borrowing money to do this evacuation, or are we? At least it hasn't been said yet. So if we have the means and the capacity to do it now, we could have still done it earlier.
Can I jump in there?
Please jump in.
The Nigerians that I know, unless they're different Nigerian, Nigerians will not leave. They'll say, what is it? Like, we're still okay, nothing is going on. They're wasting money. They want to use the money to chop money. They're telling they are collecting approval from government that they want to fly to. They just want the opportunity to chop the money. There's nothing going on. We're okay. Nigerians I know will not leave anywhere. Okay, until the time now, when the time hits their doorstep. So the thing is, Nigerians will not leave.
Yes, but the thing is, it will be on record that at so time, when this crisis started, the Nigerian embassy kept telling their citizens, it's time for evacuation, it's time for evacuation. Then we will know the people to blame. The people who refuse to leave the country, will blame them. That's on one hand. Secondly, I think that, I don't know how the crisis has escalated, but I think that it's also the responsibility of the Nigerian citizens to study their environment and know how intense this is, and keep reporting to the embassy. Keep writing to the embassy, this is happening. Any plans for us? Other countries are leaving. We cannot just sit down and wait for governments to be the one to, go around. We have a response. We are schooling in another man's country.
And it have been in batches, like you said.
Yes, in batches. We just start taking them gradually. We know that we are many. 10,000 people in Sudan. Because waiting that they study for there. I'm at a loss. Sudan, I am confused. Yeah, I am. And so I don't know how.
When your system is not good, people will go everywhere to go and find greener pastures. No matter how brown, the grass is there. It looks greener than when
it's not about, so what I see is not about the country not being good. We have a place like India. I don't know how good their country is, right? They have people who stay there and they have people who choose to leave. But the fact is, the number of people who choose to leave would be leaving because there's something about the system we have here that puts emphasis on international recognition. We need to start changing it. Because if you can go to a place like just the neighboring countries around because you want that international recognition, when you bring it here, the fact that it's not from Nigeria would put you at a certain level is what needs to change so that we can have most of our students here. I wanted to study their educational system and how better it is compared to what we have in Nigeria. It is not better.
You checked it because I was checking. Comments said that even after our Sanusi Lamido finished in ABU, he also went to Sudan. So some countries have good education, or maybe they have affordable affiliation or some courses that they are very good at. But somebody was saying I should not compare Nigeria to a war-torn country. You need to listen to, and I don't know if you're Nigerian or abroad, when you read the reports on Nigeria, when they detail the level of crisis that happen in different places, it is actually worrisome. But because we don't see it, or where we are is relatively peaceful. We also saw what happened in 2020 under the ENDSARZ protests. And when the crisis started, we all felt protest is normal until the things became really bad, and they were burning down buildings, they were looting, and they were burning, they were burning high courts, burning police station. It could have become Sudan.
Yeah, and that is why I say the government needs to move more quickly. So at least you can start giving out advisories. The difference between you staying in your home country is if anything happens, I can run either to my mother's house or my father's house, you understand? But the citizens who are not in their country needs to be better taken care of. So you as an embassy who understands some of these things, before it escalates to that level, you start giving out advice, you start writing to the schools. We want to have a meeting with our Nigerian students, we want to tell them this, we want to give them this, so that those people who can afford to come back by themselves, their parents would have started buying tickets for them to come home. No parents will have money to buy tickets for their child to come home and be waiting for the government to evacuate them. So you help yourself so that we can help you as Nigerian people. You don't wait to the dying moment and then, oh yeah, we cannot have conversations, or this is a very... And in war zones like this, it's even very difficult to have embassy reasonable discussions because the two warring factions are not listening. There's a friction. They won't listen to any outsider that's coming. In their mind, what are you doing in our country? If you become casualty, you become casualty. It's your business.
So businessmen, people, adults who are there are likely to have evacuated. But the students are usually the ones that are on the latter end of this. Because if you're working in Sudan for every business and you're hearing, you're likely to have bought a ticket and gone.
So a family friend's senior brother, someone that is really close to us, the senior brother was in Libya during the crisis, and when we happened, she was like, you mean Augusti Libya? I say yes, so that their own area is peaceful. You know, sometimes there might be crisis going on in a country, and where you are is peaceful until it now reaches your area. Some people were in Ukraine until the crisis reached, they'll feel like, no, it won't get here. They are always fighting. Is it not they've always been fighting in this place? Like we have been reading Zanko Kataf. They've been fighting, they're always kidnapping. So you might feel like, my own local government is far from there. We don't fight in our area until the day it now comes to where
That's why your government should protect you. So whatever you are feeling, your government should give that advisory. Until with your feeling, it's coming,
We have to run, but in total, Sudan has about 15 public universities and 9 private universities.
Wow.
Far cry from what we have there. So we have 10,000 of our students gone there to do what? Anyway, it's a conversation. We just hope that they get home safely. That's the most important thing, and hopefully the federal government is able to care for them and ensure that their families reunite with these students.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.